This is the Northwest Tank Line Super Bowl show coming to you from Radio Row, Super Bowl 58. Of course, it's the Chiefs and the 49ers. We're coming to you from Mandalay Bay, our 23rd year here at the big game. And we got a treat for you. We were just kind of hanging around here, and the next thing you know, we see Will Compton and Taylor Lewan. They're, of course, two former NFL players, Bussin with the boys, Barstool Sports. It's a huge podcast. Kind of go over there, start chit-chatting. Next thing you know, we're talking about Shea Weber, Ryan Johansson. And Taylor, you're telling me your wife's from Kelowna.
Yeah, she's from Kelowna, BC. She's actually from Lake Country and been up there a few times, man. You boys are obviously out of Vancouver. Been out there as well. I was telling this gentleman to your left,
Mike Whittingham, our producer's not a gentleman, but go ahead.
Mikey, I was telling Mikey that bag of dicks, dude. He's the worst. But I was in Vancouver, and I've spent 32 years of my life living in the United States of America. And I had 3 crimes committed against me in America. And then I went to Vancouver, and I put my backpack in a parking garage, and I got my backpack stolen. So to me, I feel like Canada's more of a dangerous country than America. Can we sign off on that?
Well, no, but I will say this. The show's being heard on AM 1150 in Kelowna, so you better be careful. Somebody might be listening, right?
Yeah, someone might be. The guy who has my backpack probably is listening right now. Now, my wife's family, they're hilarious. They like to jab me about America. And anytime I come at Canada a little bit, the pride comes out, and I love it. So it's a good time.
You know, it's interesting. We talked about some of the guys that I know from the Predators, right? And there's been a bunch of guys from Vancouver. Cody Franson, Colton Sissons, Dante Fabro. Mentioned Ryan, Shea Weber from BC. And the one thing that was really cool that I always said, there's a real cool dynamic between the Predators and the Titans, right? I mean, I've seen the scenes where the Predators come out, they put the sword in the middle of the field during the Titans game, and then you see Titans. I think some of the old linemen, I don't know if you were there, they're chugging beers in the stands in the playoffs. Pretty good chemistry between those two organizations.
That brain trust happened between me and the offensive line. We actually did a beer luge off a Catfish for a Predators game one time, and when I went to the University of Michigan, obviously it's a big hockey school. And my brother, I kind of grew up around hockey my entire life. My brother got drafted for juniors, played at Corpus Christi down in Texas. And so it was always, to me, my favorite sport to consume live. And I was really close to the guys at Michigan. And when I got to Tennessee, it really didn't seem like, the Preds were doing so well. And there was that time they were going to the finals, and they were always in the playoffs and making a run. And the Titans, we were awful. We were terrible. When I first got there, my first 2 years, we won 5 games in 2 years. So once we started to win a little bit, we started going to more games. And to me, it was all about bringing these things together because I love the camaraderie, not only in football, but when you're able to bring different sports, different walks of life, and different talents and bring them together and have, have fun, go out together and get after it and support each other, whether you're chugging a beer at the glass or chugging a beer off a Catfish and just showing the boys you're supporting them. I think that is a very cool thing that needs to be more involved when getting more like teams in the same city kind of like banding together.
It's kind of funny. I've talked about this so many times. We did a poll question one time when I was hosting a show back in Vancouver. Nashville or Vegas, and I think it came in like 85% for Nashville.
Really?
Dude, it's like, I love Nashville.
Yeah.
To me, give me Nashville over Vegas anytime.
Yeah, Vegas, for the longest time, I grew up in Arizona, and it's a 4-hour drive, and I mentioned my brother played hockey, and we would be up here all the time, and I didn't really understand how great Vegas was until this past year, 2023. And there's so much more to offer than just blacking out on the strip and doing ungodly things. Like it's a really fun time. But Nashville is still, more and more people know about it, but it is still such a hidden gem where you go there, you walk into some, there's a bar out there called Santa's Pub. It's like a trailer. And it's still one of those bars you go in, you can smoke cigarettes inside, and one day like Michael Bublé will just walk in and start playing, and then Kid Rock will be in there, and it's such a hodgepodge of like these celebrities that are able to kind of like walk around town, have a good time, not necessarily be like quote unquote bothered by the situation, but it is a very, very cool city to be a part of and to spend your time in. It's just, I'm very lucky to have spent my career in Nashville.
Taylor Lewan is our guest, former NFL offensive lineman with the Titans. Now he's with Barstool Sports. He and Will Compton, of course, they have a huge podcast, Bussin with the Boys. Tell us about the transition from, being a player to trying to find something to do after sports.
Yeah, the transition, luckily for me, and I know a lot of gentlemen who play sports, whenever you're done playing sports, whether it's in high school, it's in college, or the pro sport of your choice, there's always a time that's very difficult for people that are kind of, you immerse your identity. To be able to be successful in a sport, you have to be able to kind of have this level of ego where you have to be the best at all times. You put your identity in it, so it's very difficult for gentlemen to walk away from the game and still find fulfillment in life of not having that competitive spirit over and over again. So for me with Bussin, it was a very lucky situation because Will Compton, he came to the Titans in 2018, and we became best friends like immediately. We were, we had this thing called accountability buddies where we would sit in the sauna and we would do contrast and all these different biohacking techniques for the body to make sure that you're ready to go every single Sunday. And one of the foundations of our friendship was talking about podcasts like Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience, like talking about The Fighter and the Kid. A lot of these guys that, we would go and just turn on when we didn't feel like listening to music. And we were in a game. It was Colts versus Titans. It was in Nissan Stadium, and whoever won that game was going to be able to be the 7th seed in the playoffs. We ended up getting blown out in that game, getting absolutely destroyed. And Will and I are at this Chinese buffet restaurant eating our feelings, and Will brings up the idea of doing a podcast. And I thought, Doc, I don't want to do that. It's so much. I just signed this deal with the Titans, and I don't want people to be kind of like upset with me that I was doing something else as well. He talks me into it, and we find this bus in the back of this place called Wedgwood Houston in Nashville, Tennessee. Bought it for $2,000, put another $8,000 into it, and had no idea it was going to do what it did. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity because as I found myself getting injured and being out of the league, not by choice, but because I had to, it made the transition for me so much easier and so much more fulfilled to go and do things where a gentleman like yourself sits there and goes, hey, I'd love to get you on the show for 15 minutes because that part of me is still living, where people enjoy what I have to say or don't enjoy it, but they're listening regardless is very cool to me, and I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful for it.
I always think about, if somebody's asking me about how to get in this business, what do you got to do to be successful? And there's just number one, be yourself, right? And number two, don't be afraid to give your opinion on things, right? Because the worst thing that you want is people to kind of go, meh, right? People either love you or they're not going to like you. And there's guys, trust me, that are making millions of dollars that, we can talk about on network television, right? But that's the thing. It's evoking emotion. And sometimes an emotion is humor, right? Sometimes it's, dislike, whatever. But you got to have something that entertains those people.
There's a level, you said it perfectly, being yourself is such an important thing. Because if you start to put on this character and this thing of like, I'm, this is the guy I'm going to be now. Like eventually that's going to run dry. It's going to feel stale to you. And people, the viewer of a podcast, a show, whoever the consumer is, they're not stupid. And so they know if you're being fake. They know if you're being real. They know if you and your co-host are something's going on outside of the show for us, Bussin' with the Boys. People are very aware and very keen to figure out those things. And you do have to take risks. Like I would go on a show that is playing in Kelowna right now, and I make a bad joke about Canada being dangerous. Like how well does that going to go over? But you just kind of throw stuff at the wall and see what happens. And the ability to not be afraid of failing and then pivoting when things are not working is so important.
Hey Taylor, talk about speaking risks. Why did you go golfing with Biz and the fellas when you can't even golf? And Paul Bussin, big friend of ours. We talked about the golf tournament of the Harvest. Biz came up there one year. You got to check it out. I'll send you the link.
Please do.
Biz does BC. It was like a 5-part series, and one of the parts was actually Biz at our golf tournament caddying.
Really?
Oh, dude, it's funny.
Yeah,
it's great. Biz, you know Biz, right? So there you go.
Biz is he's outstanding, and talk about a guy who's an incredible pivot. I think he was like a 4th-line grinder out there throwing the bows every single week in the NHL season, and able to find himself. I think he's on TNT now. Spittin' Chicklets, he's really cornered the market as far as hockey podcasts. It's the number 1 hockey podcast in the world. So they have done an amazing job. And it's very unique parallels. Biz, guy that was fighting for a roster spot every single year, 4th-line grinder type guy, and then Witt, who was a first-round pick. It's a very similar parallel to me and Will. Will was an undrafted cat that is a locker room glue guy. You love to have him. He played in the league for 9 years from the neck up. His instinctual ability to break down plays, to watch the film, to consume, and be able to play faster on Sunday because of the work he did Monday through Saturday was so important. And then I was a first-round pick for the Titans, was able to play for 9 years. So when we joined Barstool, there was a very unique there was an energy towards us. And so we had Biz on a couple years ago in Arizona where he lives. That's where I grew up. And then Witt, we've slowly gotten to know a little bit. And so we wanted to do a collab for a while. We did the show with them and then did a sandbagger. And I'll be honest, I was absolutely dreading playing golf. I don't like playing it.
I didn't see the episode that you guys did, but I saw the one that JR and Timu did. Delaney. That was good.
So the Sandbagger hasn't come out. It's a big production, so it'll come out in a couple of months. And I am so bad. I have this banana hook slice that is just awful. And people are like, let the club work for you. And no, that's BS. I'm swinging as hard as I can, and I just want that ball to go a mile and a half. I want to see that thing just rip through the air. So Witt was on my team. That guy is truly a scratch golfer. He's incredible. And so I think we took one of my shots through the 9 holes one time, and that is because he probably just felt bad for me. And I'm like, oh, hey, we'll just hit this one. So I feel like I was being a part of the team in some way. But those guys are incredible.
Great stuff. Hey, before we let you go, got about a minute left. Who do you like this Sunday and why?
It's such a hard thing. I think it's what makes this game so beautiful is my brain is telling me Chiefs. It's so hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes. My heart says the 49ers. I have relationships with guys on both teams. But the thing that plays in my head over and over again is there's a clip of George Kittle being mic'd up when they were losing, when they lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, where he says, I will be back here. You will not get the best of me. He's speaking to himself, but he's staring at the sidelines. And I would love nothing more than for Fred Warner, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Debo, Trent Williams, who I believe is the best offensive lineman in the NFL, maybe in history, for them to get that ring. I think that would be such a special opportunity because I believe the Chiefs' window is going to stay open for a lot longer than the 49ers.
Great stuff. I know you guys are busy. Hell, I saw you guys did a little coup d'etat. You took over McAfee's set there for a while.
I had to take over that, man. McAfee's the best, dude. He's a great guy. And he's changing the game, too, of media.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. This has been awesome. I know the folks in Kelowna will enjoy it, and hopefully we'll cross paths soon.
Well, brother, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.